And as you can see, we will record this. It will be available as always on our website, and we always send out an email afterwards to everyone that's on our email list. Please share it with any of your friends, family, acquaintances who you know are will vote Democrat or leaning Democrat, so that they can meet these great candidates. It's really important that we share it broadly, and that's the reason that we record it. I do want to start by acknowledging that we are on the historic lands of Indigenous tribes. I want to recognize the candidates and the elected officials that are here today. And please speak up if I miss somebody, because I can only see so many people right now. Scott Jablow is our vice mayor currently, and he is a candidate for Sedona City Mayor. Holly Plug and Kathy Kinsella are both women that are with us today. Thanks for being here. And the one candidate that I saw was Brian Fultz. He is running for Sedona City Council. Did I miss anyone?
And Pete Berman.
Oh, okay. I didn't see Pete come in, and Pete Furman is also running for Sedona City Council. Thank you for being here. Welcome. And I also want to welcome all of our guests that are here today. The key thing that I wanted to talk about just briefly is I just wanted to tell everyone, if you weren't there, the event at the Mary Fisher Theater with the Stacey Abrams film was absolutely amazing. It was a sold out event, and it was just so heartwarming to see all of those people in one place, all those Democrats and Democratic leaning independents in one place. And it was incredible. The film itself was excellent. If you weren't able to make it, I would highly recommend that you watch it. We all know about voter suppression, but it really brought it home, what happened in Georgia. The kinds of things that that Secretary of State, who was a Republican in Georgia, pulled to keep people from voting, to disenfranchise so many people, was criminal. And so I highly recommend you watching the film. And also it points to how important this midterm election is. Voter suppression is becoming rampant throughout the country. We cannot allow that to happen. We have to make sure that all of the voters that will vote Democrat are informed voters, that they know how to vote, when to vote, where to vote, and that they aren't prevented from voting by misinformation. So that's our job as Democrats of the Red Rocks. That's what we're going to work really hard to do this election season. If you want to help, please go online and click on the volunteer button, and our volunteer committee will get a hold of you to find out how you can help in this effort. You don't need to be somebody on the front line. We need people on the front line, like knocking on doors, talking to voters, but we need a lot of people behind the scenes too. So we can find a place for every volunteer. Please help out. It's a critical election. We have to make sure that our Secretary of State, our next Secretary of State, is a Democrat. We have to make sure our governor is a Democrat, our Attorney General, and our Corporation Commission, all across the ballot. We need Democrats in those places so that we can make sure that the laws that are passed are things that favor people, not corporations. So that's my little speech about that. I feel strongly about it. I also want to thank the membership / fundraising committee. They are the ones that put on that film. You did an amazing job. The people that are on that committee, Stephen Hanks, I know, put in the lion's share of work, and I really want to thank him. B. Hanks is the chair of that committee. And then Mark Anton, one of our board members, is on that committee, and Diana Christensen. So thank you so much for all your hard work. It was really worth it. It was wonderful. And thank you also if you donated. Yeah, I agree. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much also if you donated or pledged. That money is going to help support our efforts this election season. So thank you so much for that. So speaking of films, I'm going to turn it over to Frankie for just a second, and she can tell us about the upcoming film. The film club still is going strong, and I would highly recommend it.
So thank you, Kathy, and thanks for everybody who came out. We did have a great time. The film was really quite inspirational. So it was exactly what I needed to see. We actually meet on generally the third Friday of every month to discuss a film that we've already watched. Many of you have joined us, so you know the drill. We don't have a film picked out yet for May. So keep your eyes open. We'll send out an email and we'll also post on the website.
So it's a great way to see a bunch of great, interesting films, and the discussion is really an interesting discussion, and you get to meet like-minded people.
Exactly. Yeah. And you get to talk about really interesting things. Our last film, the penultimate film, was about the Ukraine. So we choose highly relevant films and we have really good conversations. So join us.
Yeah. Thanks so much for doing that. Frankie Reamer and Mick Jordahl are the two people that coordinate that effort. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ellen Ferreira. Ellen Ferreira is our fabulous program chair with the Democrats of the Red Rocks. And I'm going to turn it over to you. You're muted, Ellen.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad that you could make it. We have several outstanding speakers today, and this is the final event where we are featuring statewide candidates, and we have been able to meet just about everyone, and it's been terrific. And we have such a good insight into people, who they are and what their campaigns are about through these meetings. And if you've missed any of them, I urge you to go back and watch them, because the candidates that the Democrats are putting up are really just terrific. We have today Reginald Bolding, who is the minority leader of the Arizona House of Representatives. We have Commissioner Sandra Kennedy, who I believe is in her car right now driving. And so then we also have Lauren Kuby, who is also running for Corporation Commission. At the end of the program, which would probably be around 11:15, we're going to hear from Lama Hayburn, who is a new employee of DORR. And she is phenomenal and just blows me away every time I talk to her. And she's going to be coordinating canvases and will tell us a little bit about what she's planning to do. She just is a wonderful addition to our team. So we're thrilled to have her, and I want you to meet her, become familiar with her, and know what she's up to. The first speaker that we had planned to have was Reginald Bolding. He has lots of activities going on the House floor and with committees. And so what I told his staffer, Kenneth, is we will take him when we can get him. I would like him to, I was planning for him to speak first, but his time is really limited. And so what we'll do is a little bit of swap, and we'll hear from the Corporation Commission candidates first. And then when Leader Bolding comes on the call, we will slide him in, or, hopefully he'll be here when there's a good break in the action. Why don't we hear first from Lauren Kuby, because Sandra is in her car and I don't want her to be distracted in any way. So it looks like you're stopped now. You're not driving. Is that true?
I am not driving.
Okay. All right.
I'm sitting in a parking lot.
That's amazing, because we had Tom O'Halloran come to us last month from a parking lot outside the U.S. Capitol. So why don't we start with you, Commissioner Kennedy? And we thought you could tell us a little bit about yourself. You've got an extensive background starting all the way back in 1986 when you were first elected to the Arizona House of Representatives. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and the things that are your priorities, then we'll ask Lauren to do the same. And then we would like to spotlight and have both of you on together to explain to people what the Corporation Commission does, because a lot of people really don't still understand it, how important it is, and what are hot ticket items that are on your agenda right now.
Well, good morning, and thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the introduction. It is an honor to be back with you again. It is always good to be in the presence of great Democrats who work very hard to get Democrats elected, not just locally, but statewide. And I am forever grateful. Just a little background. I know you gave just a little, brief synopsis of who I am, but I have served in the legislature 6 years in the House, 6 years in the Senate, served 1 4-year term on the Phoenix Union High School Governing Board. And then in 2008, I was part of the solar team, Sam George, Paul Newman, and Sandra Kennedy. And 2 of us got elected from the solar team and won 2 seats on the Arizona Corporation Commission. It had been years, decades since Democrats had been a part of the commission and having an input and a say in the everyday lives of the very people of Arizona. The Corporation Commission is a very powerful, and when I say powerful office, it touches the lives of everyday citizens, everyday voters, everyday residents of the state of Arizona on a daily basis. Whether you are turning your light switch on, we regulate it. If you're turning on your water spigot, we regulate it. If you are walking around the very pipes under your feet, we regulate it. We regulate the utilities that you make sure that they function so that they can make sure that you have the power or the water or the resources that you need on a daily basis. The Corporation Commission also is an entity where if you want to start a business or a 501c3, I call us the bank. It is where you deposit or you file your documents to start your business or your nonprofit. It is the place where we have a utilities division, a legal division, a corporations division, securities division. If you are an investor, that office, the securities division, oversees security handlers. So if you have an issue, we are the place where you come and file your complaint. And we handle those complaints against security dealers. So we are a very busy entity. We don't just do utilities. We regulate and try to make sure that the people of this state stay safe. So, and one entity that I truly forgot is the Railroad and Pipeline Safety Division. If you travel across a railroad track, we regulate it. So we touch your daily life in just about anything you do on a daily basis. Now, why am I running again for the Corporation Commission? I believe I've got some unfinished business, and I am glad that I am running with Lauren Kuby. I call Lauren the Energizer Bunny. She was the first statewide candidate to get her signature. She was the first statewide candidate to get her $5 donations. She is truly the Energizer Bunny who energized me. So I am forever grateful that she has chosen to run with me. And we truly make a terrific team. And if you want Arizona to be the solar capital of the United States, we are the ones who will make sure that that message is carried. We will make sure that we promulgate rules to make change. You know, climate change is real, and there's no other way to say it. You know, you look at Lake Mead, you look at Lake Pleasant, you see the rings around it. That's real. We have an opportunity at the commission to talk about conservation because we regulate nearly 300 small water companies, and we've got large and small. I shouldn't just say small companies, but we regulate nearly 300 water companies. We have the ability to make sure that there are best management practices that these companies operate by. Conservation should be the #1 goal for every company that operates in this state. Is it a goal today? Absolutely not. Because if you only have one voice or two voices at the commission saying that, you need to do conservation, and you have three other voices that are saying, no, that's not important. Well, with that third voice being Lauren Kuby, Arizona for the first time will have a Democratic majority in 3 decades. So I am asking you, along with all the Democrats around the state, to help Lauren and I, help me get back to the commission, but help Lauren get to the commission so that we can truly make some changes. Now, I made some promises the last election cycle. I said, if I get to the commission, I'm going to make sure that APS opens up their books. Promises made, promises kept. We found out how they were spending that dark money. We found out who that money was going to, the entities. And we will, in the next couple of weeks, ask APS to do the same thing. We think that we need to know how these companies are spending their monies, how they're buying their legislators or elected officials. That is a right for you to know, because it is your dollars that help them to pass on to those entities and those candidates and elected officials. So I think I'll stop there because I am truly passionate about the office, and I'm passionate about being the consumer advocate for the voters of this state. And I want to continue to be the voice. So I will stop there. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to take your questions. But thank you for allowing me the opportunity today.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you for being here. We appreciate it. We also appreciate very much that both of you were at our DORR picnic in September. That was terrific that you took the time to drive up to Sedona and be with us. And that was great. So we appreciate that very much. Lauren is a city council member in the city of Tempe, but her passion is the environment and environmental justice. And this is a perfect fit for her. So welcome, Lauren. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. Delighted to be here. And that picnic, I want to tell you, it was such a boon for Fives, for Sandra and I, and we so appreciate all the help and the beautiful setting that day. So I'll do something a little different. I'll present a PowerPoint about Sandra and I in the race and how we're going to win the Arizona Corporation Commission race for the Democrats. We will join Anna Tovar, of course, Commissioner Kennedy will be reelected, I will be elected, and we will have a Democratic majority on the Corporation Commission. So let's see, why isn't this, well, there we go. So we're running together. We are both consumer advocates, and you can look at our history, our track record, and certainly Sandra, as a consumer advocate on the commission, has been unparalleled in commission history. We're also corporate watchdogs. We're not afraid to stand up to special interest and represent the people of Arizona. And then we're solar champions and renewable energy champions. You may not know me as well as Sandra. Sandra is very humble, and she's the first Black woman elected statewide west of the Mississippi in the United States history. So it's pretty amazing that we have this resource and this incredible champion for us sitting on the commission. But I'm a two-term council member in Tempe. I'm a former vice mayor. My term is up in July, but I'm working very hard for my constituents until that very day. I'm also an ASU sustainability scientist. We actually just got different titles. We're global future scientists, and I'm a senior global future scientist, so imagine that. And I've worked at ASU for 25 years, and a lot of water and energy issues and water energy projects. And right now, I'm actually going part-time because I want to give more to this race than I can as a full-time employee of the university. So I lead ASU Stardust Center for Affordable Homes and the Family, which directly relates to the race, because part of what makes housing secure or insecure are utility rates. They can be crippling with families, and really in poor families, you can be spending up to 25% of your earnings to utilities, and that can be a crippling factor in your security as a family. I've been active in Democratic politics since I was a teenager. When I was actually 12, I was the assistant committee woman in my town, in my area, until my brothers told me I really wasn't. My dad had just made a little badge for me. He wanted me to do all the work for him, but I've been knocking doors since I was 12 years old. And, you know, I've watched my generation, which fought the war, which was going to be different. I've seen my generation lead us into very consumerist culture. I do have feel collective guilt as a boomer, you know, and I want to leave a better future for my grandchildren, should I be blessed to have them. I'm hoping soon. And for all the students I've mentored at the university over these 25 years, I've been the faculty advisor for so many clubs, March for Our Lives right now, and Uncoke My Campus, and the Arizona Students Association, and Next Gen, and Environmental Coalition. And that is the pride and joy of the work I do at ASU, although that's all service work, not my paid work. So in Tempe, I led a very successful ballot initiative that drove dark money out of our local politics and actually captured 91.44% of the vote. And I'm very proud of that 0.44%. Whenever Terry Goddard talks about it, I always say 0.44, because I mean, what an amazing bipartisan push to really have the voters have a right to know. The voters have a right to know who's spending money in their politics. We also reduced the amount of money you could give to elections from $6,000 per person to one candidate to $500. And to me, you know, money is the root of all evil in politics. And we've seen that in the commission race. We saw how APS parent company spent over 9 million, maybe even 11 million, Sandra can correct me, on trying to drive Sandra off the commission. And it was dark money. It was nasty advertising meant to really suppress the vote. In other positive news, I created Tempe's Sustainability Commission, which led us to be the first city in the Valley with a climate action plan. We actually just adopted our climate action plan 2.0, which is focused on equity. And we also adopted a 100% renewable energy goal. That is one of the reasons I'm running too, because even though the city has a 100% renewable energy goal, we're only 18% of the way there. And that's because the utilities, they won't play with us. And we're bigger players than you know, individual homeowners who want to do rooftop solar. They killed that. But we're big players, yet we can't really get them to come up with good deals that are good for the taxpayers of our town. And we need to have renewable energy standards that really propel the clean energy transition. There. I won't go into too much detail, but I also created the first Family Justice Commission in the country and led on a lot of worker protection issues. And Sandra, you know, we got the CWA, Communication Workers of America endorsement when they weren't endorsing anyone because they were holding off wanting to get the PRO Act passed. And we got that because of Sandra, because she has been tireless in protecting the workers of the telecom industry and cable industry. So I won't go into this because Sandra has talked so much about what the Corporation Commission is, but you know, and it's an elected position. And mind you, the legislature would like to change that, and they've introduced bills this session and last session to really weaken the powers of the commission and weaken even the composition of the commission. They wanted to limit it to a few professions that could even run for office. So that bill didn't go anywhere, but we need to be on guard because the legislature feels threatened by the power of the commission. It's often called the fourth branch of government as a result. And it has, you know, legislative, executive, and judicial roles, not just rules for the utilities, but utility rates. And Sandra has detailed so much of that. And, you know, when I win and when Sandra's reelected, we will have an all-woman Democratic majority. So we spoke a little bit about the crisis before us. We are obviously in a climate crisis with the increased numbers and intensity of wildfires, historic mega drought. It's the worst drought in 1,200 years, 1,200 years. And dirty air and water, we have the worst air quality. We rank in the top 10 cities with the worst air quality. That is just not acceptable. And then heat, extreme heat. There were 53 days in 2020 where temperatures exceeded 110 degrees. And that's not an outlier. That's not going away. We need to adapt and mitigate for this, the new reality. But I will contend, I will end with an optimistic message that we actually, there's hope. You know, climate is the great convener. We have 74% of Arizonans supporting a clean energy transition. That was according to the Center for the Future of Arizona and a very thorough Gallup poll they did this year. 74% of Arizonans. So what's wrong there? It goes back to the money, right? Because politicians are not representing our wishes and our desires in the legislature. And we need them to represent our desires and our wishes in the Corporation Commission. We know that with clean energy jobs, they can't be outsourced. They lead to clean air, clean water, healthier communities, and they lead to energy independence, which is brought home very starkly with the Ukraine war, that we need to build resilience. We need to really super decarbonize our energy sector. Sandra mentioned, but there's a renewable energy standard that it actually expired. It was established in 2006 by the wonderful Chris Mays and Bill Mondell, and it required utilities obtain 15% of their power. That was actually a really big step, and we led the nation at that time. But we let that expire because after 4 years of work, Republican on the commission, even though he had negotiated compromise, he backed out, and that did not pass. So we currently don't have a renewable energy standard because we've surpassed that by a few percentage points. They also rejected an energy efficiency standard, and this is a standard that has resulted in $9 billion, that's with a B, $9 billion of savings for Arizona residents. So to let the energy efficiency standard expire, which helps us we didn't have to build 15 power plants, and we saved all that money. And we know with a 100% standard, we get quarter of the way there by energy efficiency. So that's almost criminal that that has expired and that the commission couldn't find a way to renew that standard. So we need to address these rising temperatures. We have to rapidly decarbonize, and it's sort of all tools in the toolbox, right? Everyone on the deck. We need rooftop solar. We need community choice aggregation. We need a just and equitable transition for coal communities. So you think about coal communities, think about the Navajo Nation, which has been extracted for decades, so we could build our cities. And we think about the Hopi Nation, we think about St. John's and other rural communities. Well, these coal plants are shuttering, as they should. It's not healthy, it doesn't make sense in the marketplace, coal's so expensive, but we need to find a way to transition to a clean energy economy for those areas. And we need to be at the table requiring utilities to pay into that. And the state actually has to pay into it too. The legislature has to be a part and parcel of all this. And what's also at stake is our rates. We have the sunniest state in the nation, yet we have higher electric bills than California. So we need to really become the solar energy capital of the world. And the way you can help is talk to your friends about this race, because it is a down ballot race. It is a midterm year. We have to get people flip their ballot upside down, start with school board members and move up, because the Corporation Commission has such an impact on your family, as Sandra mentioned. So there's many ways you can help by sharing all the social media. We're going to be out there explaining to people in very unique and fun ways about the commission that, I mean, we might call it the Corruption Commission. That's what this middle C stands for. But I see it, and I know Sandra sees it, as the Consumer Commission. Think of it as the Arizona Consumer Commission. Think of it as the Arizona Climate Commission, because it plays those roles. It can have such an impact on Arizona. Thank you so much, and would welcome your questions.
That's great. Thank you, Lauren, and thank you, Sandra. Very interesting. Do we have any questions from our group? Let me see.
Oh, someone asked about the desalination.
There was a question. Yeah.
Someone asked, what do you know about Ducey and the desalination project? I know like there's an intention where he would like to build a $1 billion desalination plant. I mean, every tool should be in the toolbox, but we really need to conserve. And the very first step is enacting water conservation policies. And I'm on the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, or I've been on that for 7 years. And municipalities are doing their work, municipal water authorities. But Sandra can speak to this. The commission regulates over 300 water utilities, and we need those utilities to step up and really modernize and conserve. That's the first step towards conservation. I'm not sure where desalination makes sense, or maybe there can be some sort of trade for Colorado River water, and San Diego can build a desalination plant, but I would like to hear Sandra and what she has to say about this.
Lauren, actually, you've taken the words right out of my mouth. I think that as the governor is looking at desalination, I think he's forgot to look at his responsibilities for what's happening in our state now with the loss of all the water. So I'm not really sure what his real plan is, but I think we as candidates and myself as a member of the commission, need to really press the hard issue of conservation and not trying to implement new technology or encourage the technology that he's looking at that will utilize more water than less water.
Right. And, you know, we talk about the Arizona, the 5 C's. Well, what about C, conservation? And you think about if $1 billion could be put into retiring the other coal plants use a tremendous amount of water, and fossil fuel plants, gas plants use a tremendous amount of water. So I think he's kind of, yeah, missing the forest for the trees. And someone asked what's the best way to help? Well, just elevating the importance of this race. And when you guys knock doors, I know how hard you all work. Start with the Corporation Commission. Everyone's going to know about Kelly's race, about the race for governor. And I put it up before, but I'm putting it up again. I think Sandra, you still need some seed money, right, Sandra? And you're getting close. So
Yes, I do.
if you guys could donate seed money up to 180, but anything is appreciated, that is very helpful. And we are combining our clean elections money together. We're being very efficient and thrifty, just as we will be on the commission. We're looking to protect consumers, and we're going to be one for all and all for one, and be very thrifty with our spending.
How is the commission's relationship with APS these days?
Well, that is a great question.
Uh-oh, muted.
Oh, how could she be? All of a sudden, yeah.
Well, I
Sandra,
can speak while she gets back. Oh, there she is.
okay, good. There you go.
Can you see me and hear me now?
Yes.
My phone went dark on me.
But that was
well, I can
APS.
tell you-
APS did that. They muted you.
From my point of view, APS has not changed their spots. I'll put it that way, and I'll be very gently with it. I think you see the same executives at the commission. There was no change there. Maybe different names and different titles, but they are the same company and they're up to the same old tricks. And I've been very adamant about how I feel about the way they operate. And until I see significant change, I will continue to just try and harp on what they should be doing in the best interest of the ratepayer and not their shareholders.
And I mean, the one good thing, I guess they're not building gas-powered plants or expanding like SRP tried to do. But you know, they've committed to not spending in this race. But they're giving lots of money to legislators, and legislators are bringing up really restrictive legislation that hurts the commission. So it's being done in a different kind of way. Is that me squeaking like that? I'm not sure why.
I don't hear it, Lauren.
Okay.
It's possible, yeah. I don't, it's going on and off.
Well, let me say one final thing. And again, thank you for allowing us to participate. But, you know, we're not at the top of the ballot. We're not in the middle of the ballot. We're at the bottom of the ballot. And we want everyone to know that they can start at the bottom of the ballot, encourage their friends, their neighbors, their family members to start at the bottom and then work their way to the top. And we would appreciate anything that you can do to assist us. We'd love to have you volunteer. So if you would go to our website, and Lauren, can you type that in? Because I'm not sure I can type it in here on my phone.
I'll do that. And
we'd love to have you to participate and volunteer on our campaign. The more, the merrier. And we're going to get signs and literature up there to you. And we, again, I thank you. We can't do this without you.
Yeah, if there's anybody coming to Phoenix in the very near future, before we get up there, we have lots of signs we could send your way. But you're going to see us as a very visible presence. And here's, you know, our logo. We're Keith and Kennedy. We're two women working together to create a Democratic majority and a pro-consumer majority on the commission. And thank you so much for hosting us today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Boy, we appreciate hearing from both of you. We always learn a lot at these breakfasts, so thank you so much. I think, Lauren, I think maybe that might be you, so we do need, try to mute and see if maybe that, okay, did that help? Yeah, it helped. Okay, good, sorry. Well, we are joined now by Minority Leader Reginald Bolding. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad that you're here. I should say thank you for joining us again, because this is not your first time speaking at the DORR Breakfast. This time, however, you are running for Secretary of State, in addition to being Minority Leader and handling what appears to be kind of a crazy session yet again in Phoenix. We just look at what's happening there and grimace. It's tough. I just wanted to let you know that one of your passions, which is avoiding voter suppression and enabling everybody to vote, we had a fundraiser Tuesday night here where we showed the Stacey Abrams film All In. And it was very successful, and it was very inspirational and motivated a lot of us who were sort of losing steam. And it was just like, got to keep doing that again. I mention this because I know that your priorities go along the same lines, and that is why you're running for Secretary of State, that you've started 2 organizations which will promote voter registration and that enable everybody who is entitled to vote to vote. So thank you for making the time to be with us today, and tell us how you're doing. Tell us about yourself, your campaign, and your brand new baby. Congratulations.
Yes, absolutely. First, again, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And again, these are always awesome opportunities to have an opportunity just to talk to Democrats across the state. Before I dive into my campaign, I like to start with just like who I am and my story, because I think that's really important. For me, I was born in poverty to a single mom who had nothing more than a high school education, but her single most important dream in life was that her 3 young boys would have the opportunity to be and do whatever they wanted to. And I always tell people I would stay up at night in my bedroom dreaming of careers that I wanted. And my career that I wanted was to be a lawyer. So I would watch TV shows like The Practice and Law and Order, pretending to grill witnesses on the stand every single night. And I won every single case, grilling these witnesses on the stand. My mom, she believed in the system. She believed that if her kids went to school, they got good grades, things would work out. She had trust and faith in the system. And now that I think about myself raising 3 daughters, I want my daughters to be able to do and be whatever they want. But we are really facing a time right now where the system is absolutely being rigged. Democracy is being rigged. You have people who are willing to tear down the system for partisan gain. And that is something that is terrifying to me. It's terrifying to my 3 beautiful girls. One we just had 7 weeks ago. Her name is Honor. So she is keeping us up through the night. So if my eyes are red, it's because she's kept me up last night. But I love that. But this is important. This is extremely important. I was blessed with an opportunity to have an opportunity to fulfill my dream of becoming a lawyer. I was offered a full ride law school scholarship to one of the top schools in the country. And I decided to turn it down 15 years ago to become a special education math teacher here in Phoenix. And the reason why I did that was because I knew that there were other little boys and girls like me who wanted that opportunity, but they weren't given a chance. So I wanted to be that classroom teacher that could provide the access and opportunity for those other kids. And when I came to Phoenix, what I saw was that we had an education system that was delivering a false promise for our students. We had a state legislature that was taking money out of the classrooms and they were putting into private corporations. And I can tell you, watching my kids walk to school every single day with the excitement and dream to wanting to achieve whatever they could, I knew that there was people working against them in the state legislature. So that's what inspired me to run for office. And I was elected 8 years ago to serve in the House of Representatives. In the last 4 years, I've been in legislative leadership, and now I serve as the top ranking Democrat. And I can't help but think about my background in growing up, and my mom, who we lost to cancer several years ago. To think that her young boys, who she encouraged to dream, would now have the ability to not only serve as the highest ranking Democrat in the House of Representatives, but to one day be the next Arizona Secretary of State. So I tell that story because that's how I'm going to lead, with passion. I'm going to lead with understanding and hard work that we have the ability to get things done. As was mentioned in my opening, I found and launched 2 of the largest civic engagement organizations in Arizona. We've registered over 50,000 people to register to get registered to vote and to participate in democracy here in Arizona. I've hired over 150 people across 3 counties to do that work, because I truly believe that if you don't have a seat at the table, you're probably on the menu. And the reality is that we have to make sure that voting rights is not sacrificed this year. And we've been doing that through the power of education. Additionally, what our campaign is focusing on are a number of things that can improve the function of the Secretary of State's office to make sure that we're protecting and preserving your freedom to vote. My background is in education, and one way that I'm going to attack and approach this office is using my background. The first thing that we'll do is we'll partner with the Superintendent of Public Instruction, which we hope to still be Kathy Hoffman at the end of this year. And we will ensure that every single high school in this state has a voter registration form for every 16, 17, and 18-year-old student that is eligible to vote. Because right now, and a study recently came out that showed that less than 15% of our 18-year-olds are registered to vote. So when we think about the power that it has in order for us to really create a new electorate that's ready to move, we're going to fight and make sure that happens. I know how to do that. I've been doing that work. I'm going to also use my background as a community organizer to make sure that we're not just talking about voter registration, but voter education. So I serve in the state legislature, but people ask me all the time, how is Washington, D.C.? The reality is people don't know the difference between their U.S. senator and their state senator. So for us to then expect people to hold their elected officials accountable, I think is really a false choice, because what I know from the conversations that I'm having is a lot of people don't know what their lawmakers doing. People don't know the difference between the city council and their congressional leaders. And we have to educate our public so they know where they can apply pressure, where they can apply advocacy, and they can make sure that they're getting involved and rolling up their sleeves. The Secretary of State's office also deals with lobbying reporting. I've seen firsthand as a legislator the influence that lobbyists have on our system. They are down here. Lobbyists don't have term limits. And my stomach turns every time I'm in a meeting with a lobbyist and they say, this is my 35th session, my 29th session. It's so bad that you've had lobbyists who've argued on both sides of issues because they were paid by different clients. We're going to have one of the most robust lobbying reporting systems that this state has ever seen. So you know whether or not your elected leaders are voting for the people or they're voting for special interest groups. People need to have that understanding. And as a small business owner and entrepreneur myself, people don't know that the Secretary of State's office has a business function. We're going to make sure that we are cutting those red tape opportunities for those entrepreneurs who are looking for trademarks and trade names so they can get registered to actually start and create their businesses. So for me, I'm running for the office of Secretary of State, not only because I know our democracy is on the line, not only because I know our freedom to vote matters, but I know that we can improve the system. And the reality is Democrats, just like Republicans, want safe and secure elections. So I'm not going to let this idea of, Republicans talk about security as something that we need to shy about, because I can tell you this, when I put my ballot in the mail, I want to make sure that it's counted. So for us, we're going to make sure that we're talking about those issues. We're going to improve in cybersecurity. We're going to make sure that we're doing whatever we can to protect our vote by mail system. One thing that people don't know is that in 1991, Arizona became the first state in this country when the state legislature passed no excuse absentee vote by mail. So for over 30 years, Arizonans have had the ability to vote by mail, 30 years. And now that we hear people talking about our vote by mail system is broken, I would like for them to think about the last 3 decades when they've benefited from that. So we know our elected officials are using these using this theory and this language for partisan gain, and we can't have that. And you know, I'm going to lead by speaking truth, what we call truth to power. What's the reality? But I'm also going to do it in a way where we're listening to people from all backgrounds and all sides, because the reality is, if we're ever going to change the tone of our politics, where it's not just about how can my side win, we have to start somewhere. We have to start with the leader who's going to do just that. And I plan on doing that. I'm not going to be engaged in the politics of attacks. I'm going to engage in the politics of standing up and speaking what's right. And what's right is what I know is that if in 2020 we had a Republican, specifically if we had someone like Mark Fincham, who was Secretary of State in 2020, Donald Trump would have stole the election. And there's no question. How do we know that? This is because he told us he would have rigged the election for Donald Trump. And you could be good and well sure that if he makes it to the general election, we'll make sure that people see exactly what he wrote to his constituents when he said that. But we also know that we have a lot more characteristics in common than we do apart. And we're going to amplify that. We're going to talk about that because Arizonans are looking for leaders. They're looking for leadership, and they're looking for a change in tone. And if not us, then who? If not now, then when? And that's why I'm running for Secretary of State. I would love to have some questions. I know there were some questions about the water authority and then what the governor is doing. I know we have some awesome corporation commission candidates who start at the bottom, then jump back up to Secretary of State's office, then keep going. I think that'll be awesome. But if there's questions about that after we go through some Secretary of State questions, I can speak to that as I've been in the room negotiating that policy. And for those people who don't know, the Secretary of State's office is the Lieutenant Governor's office of the state of Arizona. And it's going to be essential that you have a Lieutenant Governor who understands the state. I'm already in my current position negotiating with the governor, the Speaker of the House, the Senate President. On focus, I have portfolios on multiple issues, from protecting women's right to choose, to education, to healthcare. So these are things that I'm ready to step in and jump in from day one, and can literally answer any question you have about this race or any other topic in the state of Arizona. I'll throw it back over to you. You can open up for questions.
I think this is a small enough group that people can just, speak up and ask the questions rather than typing it in the chat. I think that's a little bit more spontaneous. I'm kind of curious. We have a lot of Katie Hobbs fans in the audience here today. Would you do anything differently than she did? Are there areas that you think you would, address first or differently if you had been Secretary of State during this past couple of years?
Well, my background really informs how I lead, and when I start and talk about, family, whether it's, raised by my mom and the influence that she gave, or myself taking care of my 3 daughters and with our wife, like my family, my values, that leads me, but also my background as an educator and my background as a community organizer. So for us, we absolutely would put a stronger emphasis on our 18 to 29-year-olds who aren't registered to vote. Because the reality is everyone on this call, we're going to vote, we're going to show up, and we're going to do our civic duty. But we're losing elections because we have our 18 to 29-year-olds who aren't showing up. And why aren't they showing up? It's because they're not registered. And why aren't they registered? It's because they don't understand the direct connection and intersection between how they live life every day and how that matters with their civic duty. And that's important. We have to be able to explain and talk to people about that at all walks of life. I often hear people say that I'm not political. I don't want to get involved. But what they really are saying is I'm not partisan. I don't want to get into this partisan attacks, because everything is political. everything is politics, whether we choose to engage in it or not. So being able to communicate that message is going to be extremely important. So I would have I will dig deeper there. And I think also the voter advocacy standpoint, many people are always asking, how can I get involved? How can I get engaged? The Secretary of State's office, as the Chief Democracy Officer, I feel like your job is to help people get involved in advocacy. We have the governor who gives a State of the State address every year. I can guarantee you this, if I'm elected Secretary of State, we will give a State of Democracy address every single year on how we can be proactive, because this office should not be about reactionary approaches. We should be teaching people how they can be proactive, and that's the kind of leadership that we're going to actually lead with.
That's great. That's a fabulous answer. Those all sound wonderful. We have a question here. Please remind us what state district you represent, and do you feel that you bring a strong base of support to the race? Because you're not opposing just the Republican at this point. You're also need to win the Democratic primary. So
Absolutely.
tell us about what your district is and the kind of support that you're garnering.
Oh, absolutely. So I represent probably one of the most diverse districts in the state. So it's the capital actually is in my district, and it's diverse within terms of socioeconomic status. We have homes in this district that literally were built for $10,000, and then we also have homes that are multi-million-dollar homes. With regards to racial components, we have a Latino community, Caucasian community, Black community, tribal community. We have both rural and we also have urban. This is probably one of the most diverse districts that we have. And that background has allowed me to walk into any space and place and connect and identify with anyone, because I believe that you don't have to speak the same language as someone in order to connect with them, because I speak the language of working class people who want to get things done. And that translates in any room that you're in. I speak of values and morals that can translate in any room, and that has been successful for us. So, I mean, we've been endorsed by the mayor of Flagstaff, Tucson, and Tempe. Over 50 state lawmakers are endorsing our campaign. The tribal nations, Navajo, Gila River communities, they've come out in vast support of our campaign, which is extremely important for us. We're about coalition building. And for me, I know that I have never done anything in my life without having the coalition and support of people. And many times elected leaders like to talk about what have I done? But for me, it's always been about what can we accomplish? And that has always been successful for me. And I think that's why all of these elected leaders, our top-ranking leaders across the state have stood up and said that we are with you. We're going to fight for you, and we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that you win this race. We have 15 county recorders because it's important that county recorders run the elections. The Secretary of State certifies the elections. They're both Republican and Democrats. I have the ability to work with all of them. As a Democrat in the state legislature, I've passed more bills into law in a Republican legislature signed by a Republican governor than any other Democrat in the last 8 years. That speaks to me understanding the system, getting things done, and finding common ground. And I think that's why we're seeing a ton of support.
All right, good. Anybody else have questions? Peggy made a comment. The League of Women
What's the name of your district?
So it is District 27. It is District 27. Now with redistrict, it's District 11. So I'm on all these calls. People are like, I'm in 27, which is now in 11. And so it's District 27. So it's down. So if you're flying into Phoenix, so I have Sky Harbor Airport, now Footprint Arena, the Suns play. We also have the town of Guadalupe, Gila River Indian Community, downtown Phoenix. They gerrymandered it just right, on which they gave us everybody. Yes, go Suns. They're in the heart of our district. Yes.
All right, Lama, why don't you just ask your question?
Sure. So Leader Bolding, I actually used to work in the same office as you at Teach for America.
Oh,
So I know how important education is to you. And you mentioned that you would work with the superintendent of public instruction on voter education. What do you envision that looking like? What would be your ideal kind of path forward for that?
so I think there's multiple choice points and choice opportunities that we have to do that. One thing that we have every single year is something called National Voter Registration Day, NVRD. Many people, some people know about it, but many others don't. So on National Voter Registration Day, one thing that I currently do in the organizations that I run is we partner with school districts and we go into civics classes. We give them presentations and then we register all of the high school students. So, you know, we're registering 150, 200 students per day, but that's at a targeted scale with the limited amount of people. As Secretary of State, we should be doing this for the entire state of Arizona. And again, I don't care if they register Republican, Democrat, Independent, they should have a right to have their voices heard. So that's one of the things that we'll utilize that choice moment, National Voter Registration Day. Also, graduations are a perfect opportunity as we're letting our kids, they're leaving, we'll be making sure that we are giving them those opportunities because this office has to be proactive. We have to be proactive in how we engage with our community and our kids. But we also have to make sure that we're finding it and we're creating and we're lowering barriers so it's not difficult. It's anytime I'm registering people to vote, and which I've registered a ton of people, you really get a continuum. Some it's even saying this out of my mouth for some people who are civically active like you, it may go over your heads, but some people don't know how to register to vote. Like literally, and that's, you know, and those are the people who would vote with, those are the people who would be with us, right? Like they don't know how to register to vote. We have to, like, no one should not know how to register to vote, right? You know, and that is something that I would take absolutely seriously as the Chief Democracy Officer, because as I mentioned, if you do not have a seat at the table, you are on the menu. If you cannot have your voice heard, that means that your voice is being sacrificed, and we can't allow that to happen.
A lot of the legislation that has happened already, there's a lot of voter suppression in the legislature this year. Are there still any bills that you are concerned about that you think stand a decent chance of getting through?
Yeah, so the short answer is yes. To paint the context is, so we've had 900 pieces of voter restriction legislation introduced across the country. 100 have come from Arizona. We've been able to stop about 70 of the 100, which means that there's still 30 pieces of legislation out there lingering. Right now we have a number of different fights on hand. We are conversating about the state budget, and we have a $5 billion surplus that we need to tackle. There's a water policy that we need to work our way through. And then you also have these pieces of policy and legislation. I'm convinced that we're going to have to fight to make sure that we are still protecting people's right to vote. 60% in 2000, quick history lesson, and Linda, I saw your hand up. And so in 2010, 60% of Arizonans voted by mail. And at that time, every single statewide office was controlled by Republicans, and there was a super majority of Republicans in the state legislature. Then what we saw is an active effort to get people to vote by mail. So now, 10 years later, 90% of people vote by mail, and the dynamics of politics have changed. The legislature is separated by one vote. I lead the largest Democratic caucus since 1966. There's 31 Republicans, 29 Democrats. Our statewide offices is split 50-50 Republicans and Democrats. So that has made Republicans nervous, that the more people who we get to show up, the less power they have. And that's why they're attacking our vote by mail system. And I think we'll see more attempts to do that even in these last few days of session. Fingers crossed, last few days of session, who knows? We could be here for a lot longer.
Do you expect a special sessions to be called?
Absolutely, I do. I expect I expect at least one special session on water. There was a proposal that was that came to me in which lawmakers said, "Hey, do you mind if we do a special session? Do you mind if we sine die or end this session and go to a special session to handle some of these big issues so we can go out and campaign and fundraise?" I said, "Absolutely not." Right? Like, the reality is we need to solve the state's problems and then get to campaigning, right? I have a campaign just like you. I need to drive up and down the state, but I'm not going to sacrifice our state's business in order for us to campaign. So you have every single lawmaker down here is up for re-election. So that's adding toward pressure. But I can tell you this, that I will not allow any member of our caucus to vote on sine dying so they can go out and run for office. That's not what we got in this business to do. I like to believe that I can walk and chew gum at the same time, and we have to make sure that we get things done.
Good answer. Thanks. Pete Furman, who is running for Sedona City Council, asks your position on short-term rental legislation.
Yeah, so this is a interesting conversation about short-term rentals, and I think, like, stepping back, one of the things that we have to look at is that we are in a housing crisis, and the housing crisis is real for a number of reasons. Not only supply, but also when we look at pricing, and we're pricing people out of the market, and it's becoming very difficult. So I like the aspect of providing people opportunities to monetize their assets, right? If you are looking for a way to earn a little bit of extra money for your family, if you want to help earn extra money to put your kid in school, if you're looking to earn extra money to pay bills, I support that. Not at the expense of the community, though, that you are actually in. There has to be, our cities, our municipalities have to be partners. Because what we're seeing at the state legislature is that there have been bills in place that are essentially saying that neighbors should have no ability and should have no voice if someone decides that they want to make their place a short-term rental. That I don't believe in that. I think that there has to be a way for us to allow people to create an extra revenue and extra living for themselves. I think that's, I can't think that could be important, but I also think we cannot sacrifice. Oh man, my lights went off. I also think we can't sacrifice that by putting our neighbors on the hook. And I think there's been so many different forms of short-term legislation that we could talk about specific ones, but I think at a 30,000 foot level, that's it. And let me stand. Okay, there we go.
Can I have a comment about that? There have been like 6 or 8 bills, and we happen to have Republican legislators. So one of our Republican legislators, Brenda Barton, put in what would be Sedona's ideal bill, 2711. And it passed the committee 10-1, but never got out of rules. And talk about lobbyists. I mean, both the lobbyists for Airbnb and the industry, as well as the realtors, are opposing these bills. And we cannot seem to get anything moving. I don't understand that. We talk to all these legislators who say similar to what you're saying, and that's similar to where we believe people who live in their homes and want to rent out a room, we have no problem with that at all. But right now, 13% of our housing stock is short-term rentals. We have no place for people to live, and we have no workers because they can't live here. And places are shutting down, closing several days a week because they have no help. So it is a crisis in our community. We want to be able to have some local control. The legislature seems unwilling to allow us to do that. And I don't understand why, when everybody says they oppose the commercialization of neighborhoods and they oppose the corporate people from coming in and buying up, which is what's happening here, buying up housing, raising the price so it's unaffordable for anyone to live here, let alone taking out the stock of long-term rentals from our inventory. Why can't a bill pass the legislature?
You know, how awesome would it be for you to log onto the Secretary of State's website, click on Airbnb and see who all they gave contributions to, and then see how they're voting or not voting on these particular bills. Like, talk about the transparency that would provide, right? I'm not sure why that's not moving. I'm not sure. I can tell you that it is a choice by the Speaker of the House, because if they wanted the bill to move, we'd vote on it tomorrow. And I think that's also important for us to use the advocacy of how the SOS office can lead to advocacy to then begin a campaign around, hey, our bill's not moving, and this may be the reason why. Is it because the chair, and I have no clue. I haven't looked at the chairperson's finance reports, but is it because the chairperson of rules has a great relationship with that industry? Could that be a reason? Could it be other reasons? I don't know, but it's important for us to have all the information that's possible, and I think that's what we have to do.
Well, if you could check for us, I would appreciate it.
A while ago, so I want to, yeah.
This is killing our community.
Yeah.
It's serious.
If you look at the request to speak, I haven't checked it for several weeks now, but it was like 328 for the Barton bill 2711 and 38 opposed to it. I mean, it was resounding.
Yeah, it's an issue. I mean, and the biggest thing is that you have, and I'm seeing it in my neighborhood that I represent, is that you have a lot of Canadian investors actually who are buying properties around the golf courses. And then they are using those, like that has been the model that they've been using here. So people who are trying to find homes, they can't find homes. We're suffering the same thing regarding businesses. I went to the dry cleaner the other day to go dry clean some clothes, and it said we're only open Tuesday and Thursday because of worker shortage. I'm like, wow, right? Like that's like, so I can't even imagine like this. It's a real thing, right? And just couple that on with communities where people would have to drive in, and it's a problem. It's a problem.
Right, Kathy?
One more follow-up on 2711 though, and I want to thank Holly for stating, the situation so well. But I think what we're concerned about as well, that 2711 not be caught up in partisan politics, because
Absolutely.
as Holly pointed out, Brenda Barton did introduce the bill, and I have to say she was responsive when she heard loud and clear from this community. Now this issue of short-term rentals hurts everybody in Sedona, whether they're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or Martian. It doesn't matter, right? But she heard that and did put forth, but we were concerned that there was some resistance originally from Democratic legislators for a bill that would help our community simply because it was introduced by Republicans. So, and I don't know, a lot since that time has passed. I don't know that that's the case. I think a lot of education has happened and a lot of reception, thankfully, from the Democratic legislators. But I just wanted to put that out there and make sure that, baby doesn't get thrown with bathwater when a bill like this comes up, because it would provide absolute real relief, not only to Sedona, but to Sedona, to Cottonwood, to the Verde Valley, to Page, to Paradise Valley, Williams. There are many communities that this would help. So I just wanted to put that out there, that there was originally concern about partisan politics playing a role in this.
Yeah, and I just want to assure you that Democrats are in the minority, and by that meaning that if any bill that's introduced by a Republican wants to make it to the floor and also wants to pass, they have the ability to do it without one single Democratic vote. Like the reality is like, so and if you're hearing things like 2711 is being held by Democrats, that just simply wouldn't be the truth. We don't have the power to do that. We don't control the Rules Committee. We don't control what goes on the floor. So it's totally internal politics right now. There have been multiple short-term rental bills. They've all been introduced by different Republicans. So they're arguing over different ideas. But as far as standing up for cities and towns, that's one of the things that has been a staple of our caucus, and that's what we're going to continue to do. I know there were some bills that would from like creating different things regarding noise ordinances and having monitors to track noise, and there's a lot of different iterations. But as far as getting a short-term rental bill done and out, I think that we're ready and willing to work, because again, 95% of the legislation that we pass is bipartisan. We only, the news only amplifies 5%, which we don't agree, but 95% of everything that we pass down here is bipartisan. I wish more people knew that, but that is real. But I will look back into this, because I do and reach out to the speaker, and we meet twice a week, and I can see where that's at.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Good. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I can't tell you how much we all appreciate it. We value your time as you do, and we will keep an eye on you and your campaign and appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Yes, and in closing, just wanted to say, so I was on MSNBC a couple of weeks ago talking about this race, and they're doing whatever they can to as we are in this fight. We have pasted inside of the chat that interview that we gave. I just threw it in there again. Feel free to make a contribution to our campaign. You can watch the interview there. Thank you so much, and look forward to us continue to have a conversation. Talk soon.
That's great. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Lama, let us hear from you, our newest DORR employee, our really only DORR employee.
Contractor.
Contractor. Sorry, you're right. Oh my gosh, after all we've been through, I did not know that.
Right. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, welcome, and tell us about yourself and what your plans are for the next months.
Yeah, my name is Lama Hayburn. I am the new field organizer for DORR. So what that basically means is that I will be leading our voter contact actions. So we're going to be doing a lot of canvases in the coming months. We're going to be knocking on a lot of doors. In fact, our first canvass is coming up at the end of this month. So if you are someone who enjoys knocking on doors, please let us know, because we can use you. We can very much use you. We will be doing our very first canvass on April 30th at 10 a.m. and May 1st at 2 p.m. in West Sedona. And we're going to eventually be doing all over Sedona. So don't worry, we're not going to leave out your neighborhood. We are going to make sure we reach as many voters as possible, because as was mentioned, voter education is really going to be the key for this election. And it's just going to be really important for us to get in touch with as many voters as possible to let them know where they can vote and how they can vote and just what they can do. Because a lot of people have heard, oh, there are all these voter suppression bills in the legislature, but they don't know what that means for their current election. They don't know what that means of, am I going to get a ballot or not? Where's my voting center going to be? And those are questions up in the air that we want to make sure that we answer for voters, so that they go into this election with as much information as possible, and that, they can vote and up and down the entire ballot, so that they do reach the bottom and go their way up to the top. Was there a specific question? Oh yes, Elaine. We are working we're focusing on Sedona as a start, but we are looking at the Verde Valley as a whole. It's more a question of capacity to figure out what we can do. But we are definitely looking at, as far as me personally, but also DORR broadly, we are looking at the Verde Valley. But I will say my first canvases are definitely going to be starting in Sedona, just because of that is where our volunteer base is, and that is where people are located. And because my first canvases will be launched from the office, so they will be in West Sedona. But if you are located in the village of Oak Creek, we are going to be doing some canvases in the village. So if you're interested in having a canvas launched from your driveway, let me know. That would be great. Are there any questions? I feel like I spoke fairly quickly, so please, if you have any questions, let me know.
Why don't you tell people a little bit about your own backgrounds, Lama?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, so my name is Lama, as I said. I actually I'm a data analyst and a writer, and my background is in education advocacy. I've been doing this work for, I guess 10 years, I guess. It's been a while. My first big campaign was with Ruben Gallego for Congress back in 2014, when we canvassed in 125-degree heat. So, what the corporation commissioner candidates mentioned about climate change and how hot it gets, yeah, it gets really hot. And that is a concern we have when we are doing this work, because we have to take care of our volunteers. And it's very important to make sure that both our voters have their information, but also that our volunteers are taken care of and have enough water and do not get heat exhaustion. So these are issues that we are making sure that we are aware of. What else about me? I am probably going to run for school board in the future. So something to be aware of, I guess. Education is a really important issue to me. So that is just kind of where my passion is. And voter education, really. Absolutely, I will stick my information in the chat. And voter education is really important to me, because I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, an independent, you have a right to vote, and you have a right for your voice to be heard. And I think our job as Democrats is to convince you to vote our way. But at the end of the day, your voice is your voice, and it deserves to be heard whatever way you vote. If we did our job right, hopefully you voted for us. But at the end of the day, your vote matters, and that's the most important thing. And let me put my contact information in the chat.
Great. Hopefully you'll all be stopping by the office. Hopefully we'll all be doing some canvassing, and we will meet Lama and benefit by having her tremendously.
That's the question I wanted to ask. You want sign-up sheet online or at the office?
Wonderful question. Either would work. You can also just, if you would like to email me directly, that would actually be fantastic. I put my email in the chat. It's just lama.habern@gmail.com. But if you're interested in canvassing, especially for this first canvas we have coming up not this coming weekend, but the next weekend at the end of the month, that would be fantastic. And we will definitely be in touch over the next week and a half to get people scheduled for that. So that would be wonderful.
So you're also looking for drivers, is that right? For people that don't want to.
We are looking for.
That's me.
Yes, yes. Thank you for clarifying, Ellen. We are looking for anyone who is interested in getting involved. So if you love talking at doors, that's fantastic, but that's not everyone's strength, and that's okay. If you want to be a buddy for someone and just stay quiet but stay at their side, that's great. We want you there. If you want to drive but not get out of the car, that's okay too. We want you there. So any way that you can help is absolutely appreciated, and you'll really contribute greatly to the effort. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Kathy?
Okay, thank you, Lama. I'm so excited to be working with Lama. She is just amazing. She's, it's wonderful to have a young person on our team. We love that. But she's also quick. She knows the right questions to answer. She has experience. You're going to love working with her. She's wonderful to work with. So thank you so much, Lama, for being on our team. We really appreciate that you're working with us. And I especially am really incredibly excited. So if you meet someone, know someone that can help, like I said, it can be on the at the doors, talking to people. Once if you want to be a buddy, once you get out there, you see, actually, it's fun. I actually love canvassing. It's fun to talk to new people, and you're going to be talking to people that are like-minded in the sense that these are people that we have evidence are either Democrats or they vote Democrat. And so it's not really as scary as you think it is. And we try to get you out there at times when people are home, not in the middle of dinner, and make sure that it's a good experience for you too. If for some reason you don't have you talk to somebody and you don't have llama's information, excuse me, they can always call the office and volunteer. They can go onto the website where there's a volunteer link. That's a couple of other different ways to do it. And they just say they're interested in canvassing. So please spread the word for that. And I want to say, as I've said in other meetings, you are now all the most informed voters about these candidates that we just met. So part of your job is to go out there and talk to people that you know about these candidates, and also let them know that if they want to hear these candidates speak for themselves, they can go on and watch the recording. It's every single one of us, it's our job to make sure that we talk to people during this election that everyone knows. Peer-to-peer canvassing, as they call it, talking to your friends, family, and acquaintances, that's the best way to get people to vote. I want to thank Sandra Kennedy for being here, Lauren Kuby, Reginald Bolding for taking the time out, and Llama, of course. I also wanted to say that we do have Toby Friedman here, and she has been doing requests to speak for us for a long time. So if you're interested in being one of those people that know a lot more about the state legislature, please get a hold of Toby. Toby, if you could put your information in the chat, that would be great. And you can get signed up to have a voice about those bills that are going through the state legislature. And as Reginald said, it's not over yet. And they still need to hear from us. It's really, really critically important. The last thing I'd like to request is we do have new petitions at the office if you weren't at the movie the other day. And this particular initiative would put on the ballot a measure that would reverse some of these horrible voter suppression laws that have been passed by our state legislature. It's called the Fair Elections Initiative. And please go in and sign it. They need a lot of signatures. They have to have them by the end of June. Again, spread the word. And I'm sure you probably already all know, but the office is open Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 11 to 3. So that's kind of all I have. Is anything else for the good of the order that anyone wants to make an announcement about? Okay, guess not. So now we have a wonderful, beautiful day that we can go out and enjoy. So have a wonderful Thursday, and we'll see you next month at our Zoom breakfast for next month. Okay, take care.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Ellen. Wonderful program.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.